Joining us on the How Did You podcast today is Hecz. He's been in Call of Duty, Valorant, Halo, any game you can think of for a while. He's also the current president of Optic Texas and has recently merged Optic Gaming with Envious. How are you doing today, Hecz?
I'm good. Thank you for having me, and thank you for being so patient with me. This podcast should have happened almost a month ago, but between work and COVID and finally getting here, I appreciate your patience.
Well, it's funny you say that because thankfully Paige has been an absolute angel and has been able to keep me updated with what's going on. But what is it like? Because you're a podcast man yourself. You are Hecz. We all know you as Big Optic Hecz, but there's a family man behind the person that you are. There's life, there's everything. What is it like without a day of content?
I don't think I know a day without content. I don't think I've ever known a day without content, not even in my high school years. I've always been creating. As far as video content, YouTube content, that's obviously just an evolution of what the content it was that I've always been creating. So I don't know what a day without it is. As far as separating the Hector part and Scump and Shotzi over there talking shit. I don't know if you can see this dog over there.
Whose dog's that?
That's Rambo's, the coach, the coach's dog, Bubba. I did want to give a huge shout out to Paige for still doing the work that she's doing, even though she has a broken foot, and we tease her for it nonstop. She's one of us, so we're gonna treat her as us.
I can't imagine what it's like, but how does it feel to be such a trendsetter? Because we see that Optic was the forefront of Call of Duty content, and even to be fair, it was content as a whole because we saw the creation of vision. We've now got the process, but we also see FaZe have their own documentary. Thieves has got their own documentary. How does it feel to be at the forefront and have it to the point where teams are essentially not copying, but being influenced by Optic that heavily that they're doing their own series?
And anytime somebody brings up 100 Thieves, Nate Shot was there when we were building this thing together, so that's not surprising, right? I think the amount of imagination that he has, and I don't know how much he's got to do with a lot of the stuff that goes on now, but he's got one of the most creative minds I've ever met, and that's why we got along so famously, right? Like the reason that I operate the way that I operate is because I make it a point to hire people who aren't necessarily robots and have something to offer from a creative standpoint. As far as FaZe doing it, them changing the game, I've learned as much from them as they have from me. So it's not. And look, at the end of the day, the content is just we aren't the first people to document something, right? It's been done a very, very long time ago. We just applied it to Optic and applied it to the gaming space, and it was something that was welcomed by all. And I think that the more people that do that, I think LAG is doing something now where they're tracking their stuff. I think New York is doing something like that. They have obviously Clay and Krim there. So those are famous personalities that I would try to document as much as I can. And I think that it's a good thing, right? This is something that they should have started from the beginning, but better late than never, in my opinion.
On a recent Twitch stream, you mentioned that you wanted to get into Fortnite and you hadn't really been able to, but that was always something you regretted. What is it that you regretted about not getting into Fortnite? Because it blew up at the time when we least expected it to. It just kind of accelerated and accelerated and accelerated. Is it something you deeply regret, or is it just it was the wrong place, wrong time kind of thing?
Well, I mean, I saw the trend coming. I think if anything, any of my Fortnite thoughts back then when Fortnite wasn't even Fortnite, right? This is before Ninja. This is before Myth. Before any of these other massive personalities. I came across Fortnite through Karma, and I saw him sniping in it. And being a sniper, immediately I was like, "What the fuck? That looks amazing!" And there's bullet drop, which is something that I've never experienced before. And I'm like, "Okay, I would like to give it a shot." So immediately I started to play it, and immediately I understood why that was going to be a game to be in for the following 3 to 4 years and beyond. Right? Who knows? Unfortunately, we weren't quick enough to act on that, and we could have had some pretty big people. Right? I had a list that had essentially everybody that become big, but at the time I wasn't the only one making the decisions. This was fresh off of selling Optic to the new group, and it happens, right? People often don't align on thoughts and strategies, But this was one that was obvious to me, and ultimately, I think we lost a lot, right? Like, I think if we would have caught that Fortnite wave, if we would have listened, like, I think it would have changed the trajectory of what Optic is today, because I think that it would have elevated us to somewhere closer. It would have given the new group faith in the fact that I can still predict the future, and I still know where this thing's going. Because that's the thing about me, right? I have a magic ball, and this is always I always explain it this way. Listen, I have a magic ball. Don't ask me where I got it from, but I know where this thing's going. I know what it's going to look like. But I think that it would have given them a little bit more confidence in understanding who I am, and it just didn't pan out this way. And the following 3 years just became one of the gnarliest, most testing, most stressful years of my life. But I wouldn't have it any other way now that I have Optic back.
Whilst doing my research, you appeared on the Do Not Peep podcast with Sir Scoots, and I recognised the fact that you mentioned that Pine Park was originally going to be for the factor of getting money back or trying to make money to enable yourself to buy Optic back, because you needed money because of how big of a brand Optic is. And I noticed that you've got Optic back, but you've also got such a successful marijuana business in Pine Park. So how does it feel to have Pine Park and Optic? Because they're both run side by side, and you couldn't be prouder, surely.
Yeah, I mean, look, I started it as a means to an end. That I've done from the second that I sold Optic has been, well, not since I sold it. Like, immediately when I saw that it was going in a direction that I didn't believe in, I knew that it would eventually lead to its, I don't know, not necessarily failure, or just a understanding Optic and understanding the relationship that we have with the green wall is like almost impossible to decipher, right? We have a very black and white relationship, which is, this is what we're doing. You're either behind it or you're not. And most of the time they are, because we do create some cool shit. But when I started Pine Park and all of the other businesses that I'm a part of, the end goal was always to buy Optic back, right? On Pine Park, it happened to be something different, because there was an opportunity there for an emerging industry that I feel that is going to, within the next 10 years, once it legalizes, it's a no-brainer for me. The ability that I get to do collabs with people, right, who are in the gaming industry that eventually will want to have their own brand in cannabis, if that's what they do, then I'm the easiest door that can open that for them, right? It'll be a simple plug and play. Here's what you want to do. Here's what we offer. And then we figure out the business behind that. But as I did the research on cannabis, the actual plant and the benefits of it and everything, like I sort of went down this rabbit hole where it led me to be more passionate about cannabis, and it led me to see a future in which I want to be a part of. The culture behind it is insane. It's just so niche. I almost attribute it or assimilate it to the wine industry way back when, right? Like the wine has been drank for centuries, right? But if there was somebody there to document the different wines and the different, from the different kinds of wine, like that would have been helpful from an educational standpoint. And I think that that's what I come to offer on the cannabis side.
This is an off-the-cuff question, and I want to know what you truly believe, because it's a topic that people have discussed throughout many of years of esports, and some people have negative connotations, some people have positive connotations. And I want to know, do you believe, like, you got your Hecz quarters, you've got the Garage Mahal, what kind of impact do you think they have? Because you've got Paige, Matt, Roger, Scum, Shotzi, everybody in the background, Ray with his dog, everybody's there. Do you think that they have a positive impact, or is it not really that significant?
Yeah, look, I think creating a place where people to meet, like-minded individuals to meet and have the same common goal. In this case scenario, building Optic to as big as we can, while having fun and winning championships and competition and creating content and communicating and creating all these things. Like, it lends itself to be that, because if you look at the Formal podcast that we just filmed.
Yep.
Formal says that it's like a hangout place. It's not corporate. It's not. There's business that gets handled out of here, but it doesn't interfere with the number one thing, which is the creation of content and the creation of a relationship with your teammates that somebody else doesn't have, right? Like, I see a bunch of esports organizations, and this is no jab at them. Like, I don't know their business, so maybe this is the way that it works, but some people just operate differently. Mine has always been, this is a gang. and we're all going places together because we are a group of people that like it. So I traveled with the team, every single team, right? No, if it was the Counter-Strike team, if it was the Gears of War team, if it was a Halo team, I went everywhere, right? Luckily, I have a really, really smart, understanding wife that gets it and understands that this is my passion and she supports it. But I have to go, right? If I'm gone one weekend and in the end goal is to build something bigger, like she's behind it 100%. So I have an easier time doing that than a lot more people. But it develops this sense of group, this sense of membership, this sense of team that I always wanted to create with Optic, right? Like I'm not your traditional CEO, right? I don't have a business background. I follow my instincts. I follow my gut more than anything. And so far it's worked out for me, but it's all on the basis of, if you're an Optic, I have your back and I'm going to go to war with you. I'll sit on the sidelines while you play your video game, but I'm here to support. I'm here to get you water. I'm here to chill. I'm here to take you to dinner. I'm here to create that Optic family vibe. So we'll continue to do that as the years progress.
It's quite interesting you say that, actually, because you've made quite a few references in the past to Optic being part like the Wu-Tang Clan and things like that. But recently you merged Optic with Envy and you joined with Astro, which is a longtime friend of yours. But how does it feel? Because Optic's now being rebranded into lots of different teams. Like you've got your Optic Texas, you've got your Optic Halo, you've got your Optic Valorant. How does that feel? Because Envy is quite a big brand by itself, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Look, it's Hasser and I had a very, very long conversation, as we have throughout the last decade. I respect him. Obviously, I've always respected him. I've always actually hit him up and gotten his input on different shit throughout the years, right? Not gaming necessarily always, but some of the stuff definitely for Optic, and we just talk about the space in general and what we're doing. So this was like an easy thing for me to do. There's Optic and then there's Envy, right? There's two separate entities. They just happen to be sort of sister brands, some operating in different areas of the thing. As far as Optic being in different teams, like we've always been that, right? Like we've always been all over the place when it comes to that. And we were very, very clear as to, before we did the deal, like I was very clear with everybody that the potential partners that I had were many. The one that made the most sense to me was partnering with my longtime friend / business partner Astro in this thing, and he got it right. He understood it. He agreed with it. And there's going to be a million of different iterations of whatever you're seeing now, because this is still the early stages of esports. If you look at the NFL, like it's been around for how long, right? If you look at soccer, how long has that, or football, how long has that been around? If you look at all these traditional sports, you see that they have centuries, right? In some cases, of history. We are on year 14. You know what I mean? So whatever happens from now until the 50-year mark matters, but doesn't, because what it ends up being when it's 100 years old will determine what this thing was.
I'm very lucky to have you on this podcast, to the point where I never actually expected you to be on it. So I took to Reddit and got a few questions from Reddit. One of the questions from Reddit says, if you were starting Optic from scratch in the year 2022 in the current COD situation, what would you do to grow your brand?
And I'm not me, I'm just some random person.
Yes.
The first thing that I would do is I would try, if I'm the one starting it, the individual, as an individual person, the first thing that I would do is I would get working. I would start my content journey. I would try to sacrifice as much time as I possibly can to allocate to this one dream that I have. I would, work my ass off, work overtime, work whatever it is that I need to work on to get to a place where I can afford to go to events. And then I would pick a job that is appealing to organizations. The easiest thing to do, in my opinion, right now would be to sort of build your own personal brand, and whatever brand deals you get from there, use that money to reinvest into your team. What you're going to run into, however, is the fact that if you, Taylor, become famous enough or big enough to where you can garner your own sponsorship, what you're going to do is you're going to reinvest it into you, and then you're going to ask yourself a very simple question. Am I a team owner, or am I an influencer / gamer / content creator? And then you're going to have to make a very, very tough choice in saying, which one am I going to do? because that's what's happened to me, right? I built my own brand, and then I mean, I've always been an Optic, but I built my own brand, and then from there we started to sort of trickle down effect that crossed across a bunch of other creators that then cohesively built the Optic brand. But I would start creating content on my own and try to do something that way. I would try to save as much money as I can to do something. And then after that, it's all a matter of strategy and figuring out what works and what doesn't and how you present those storylines to the world. But even now, to this day, I do a lot of filming. I do a lot of content. I lead by showing, not by pointing.
It's quite interesting what you just mentioned, because the practices and everything that you do at Optic is very, very similar to what you suggest and is very similar to what actually happens. I have another question from Reddit, and it says, obviously you and Astro both want to grow MV and Optic as much as you can. How different is it actually working with Astro, and what responsibilities have you taken on to enable the growth of both teams?
Yeah, it doesn't really, nothing's really changed except for the fact that we go to the same business office and we cheer for the same teams, right? Like as far as us being us and us texting each other and us like being in constant contact with each other as we have been for a decade, like that really hasn't changed. As far as responsibilities goes, we check in with each other. Like nothing has literally changed. Any single time that I felt like I needed somebody else's advice, because you do need this, I asked my peers, and then I asked the people that have mentored me throughout the years, and I make an assessment from there, like who's right and where do I go. More often than not, the people that I talk to, sort of in their own way, confirm that my thought on a specific subject is the right one, and then from there I block everybody out and I just say, what would Optic be in this lane? And I solely focus on that.
We know the Hecz quarters for being quite a family-orientated place. Like you say, Optic is a family. But on the opposite side of the Hecz quarters, which we don't really see that often, is an investment kind of side, where you've got Atherton Town Football Club, because it's a third league team in England that you've got shares in. There's good golf and things like that. Is there any possible way that you could peel back the curtain? Because I know on a podcast with Big Timer recently, you mentioned that you wanted to talk about your investments, and I'm intrigued to know more if you'd like to share.
Yeah, from the beginning, what I wanted to build from the very beginning of Optic wasn't necessarily just an esports and gaming business, as much as it was a YouTube content creator business. It just so happens that I love Call of Duty, and esports is my jam, and that's what I focused on. I've never played. I mean, up until recently, I had never played a round of golf that wasn't mini golf. But I understand, like, as much as I don't understand golf or the game, or like I understand the basics of it, but I don't know how to swing a club for the life of me. If I tried with my athletically gifted DNA, I obviously could, but it's just nothing. But I understand YouTube, I understand personalities, I understand talent management, I understand how this game works because I've been here for 15 years from the beginning of it. So little by little, we sort of started to. I started to build these relationships. And a huge shout out to Scoreboard Ventures, Brian and Nahid on the other side of this wall, my business partners who have been more than just business partners, right? They've been mentors to me. They've been almost psychiatrists, business psychiatrists of sorts over the last 3 years, as I went through like one of the toughest 3 years of my life in losing and gaining. But they believed in me, and they believed in the vision, and they understood the Optic model. Because they were like the original two people that were going to invest in Optic, and they were here in Frisco in this very same office, et cetera, et cetera. That they understood the game. And, when I told them, I'm like, this isn't just a gaming thing, right? Like, this is a content to commerce business that doesn't require us to hire an actor or an actress or a singer or whatever to promote our things. Like, this is an organic thing that people who spend hours a day in front of a TV, they get to know you a little bit better. So they're going to trust you when you're saying that. One, because that they're not going to, somebody like me is not going to risk, a decade's worth of trust between me and the green wall to go sell them a piece of shit anything because I'm going to make a couple of bucks, right? And it just doesn't, anytime that sort of gets, thrown into the mix, like I ask people to be like, why would somebody who has accomplished this much, who has the trust of these many people, sell them shit? Like, it just, if I don't believe in it, I'm not doing it. And more importantly, like, if I don't like it, I just don't do it. I'm not in a situation anymore in my life where I need to do shit that I don't want to do. So I do only do things that I want to do. And I'm obviously still here. I'm obviously still vlogging. Do I need to vlog every single day to make a living? Absolutely not. But I want to share behind the scenes footage with everybody else out there. Like, this is my job. My job is to serve the green wall as much as I can without telling the green wall, without letting the green wall tell me what they want. That's my job. I tell them what they want, not them me. You know, I'm here to serve, goddammit. I'm gonna do a good job at it.
On a real level, we know you as Optic Hecz, and we see you as one of the front runners of Call of Duty content, or just even esports as a whole. But do you ever feel like there's the factor of imposter syndrome, or the factor that one day you'll wake up and, not to sound as rude as it does, be irrelevant, or anything will drop off and one day it just won't all be there?
No. Look, this thing's going to evolve into whatever evolves to on its own.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, you know, one of my main fears in the beginning of all this is that I wasn't going to benefit from what I was building, right? The same thing that every single pro player is going through right now, right? The people getting paid $5,000 a month to the people that are getting paid $30,000 a month as their salary, to the people that are making as much. Like, these people are building something for somebody in the future to make millions of dollars a month in something. So, no, if esports wants to move on without me, if hopefully one day Optic is able to, you know, to sort of the logo find its own way to just be it without me having to do what I love to do, which is be involved, but massaging it and growing it and watering it. I think that that's a beautiful thing. I'm not, look, I'm not a modest person here. Okay. I like to talk about me because there's no better view than me. God damn it. Right. But that just comes from I've always been this way, right? I think it's a graffiti mentality, or a competitor's mentality, where I am who I am. You either like me or you don't, and I am the best at what I do. Whether I am or not, to me, it doesn't matter. All I know is that I'm doing my best of what I think that I can do and be that. So as far as an imposter syndrome, I don't think that my ego would ever allow me to say that I don't belong somewhere. Which I think is a good thing. I try to impart that on everybody that I meet. You know, you're here for a reason. You belong here. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here, especially under my watchful eye, right? Like, if someone doesn't belong, they don't belong, and it's okay. But yeah, I don't know, man. I think I've done a really good job of allowing my ego be my amigo and push me to things that that Hector in 2004 wouldn't have been able to even think or comprehend or give himself a shot at. But the second that I gave him a shot at one thing and it worked, I told myself that I was never not going to give myself a shot at something. Win or lose, I tried. I'm not going to be sitting there in my lying bed thinking, what if? Fuck that. I'm going to go for it, and if it fails, it fails. I have a very good track record, so failure, good luck. Knocking on wood, obviously, because overconfidence leads to irony.
It's funny you mention iron, because that is my next question. You're a massive fan of soccer, or football as it's called over here, and the Irons is West Ham. How did you become such a fan of the Irons?
This goes back to Juarez, Mexico, very early on. We're talking 1980 fucking 1990.
Mm-hmm.
You know, internet doesn't exist. Some things are broadcasted, some things are not. I just saw a team that had the colors maroon and blue, baby blue, and I just liked it. My dad was a soccer player back in Mexico. He played a lot. He watches a lot. Still to this day, watches a lot. I don't think he watches the Premier League as much as he watches. I don't really know. Bottom line is that I remember this one team, and I remember using those colors in my graffiti pieces at some on trains at some point. But then I saw a movie when I was 23 years old called Green Street Hooligans in the United States. It's just Green Street in the UK, I believe, right? With Charlie Hunnam. And I just I'm like, holy fuck, this reminds me of that team. Whether that was a team or not, doesn't I don't know. But it sort of became a fan again. And, you know, I used to follow it a lot back in Chicago. Nowadays, not so much, because they don't show the Premier League matches here, and I haven't gone through the effort of, you know, buying the NBC sports package to be able to watch it every single morning. Because it is 6 a.m. over here when it usually happens. And in Chicago, I was able to get up and, you know, that. But when Deserto, Chris, or anybody that, you know, knows me makes fun of me for becoming a fan of West Ham because of the movie, I still say to them, that movie came out 20 years ago, which makes me a fan of the Hammers for 20 years, which makes me a fucking fan. My slippers are West Ham United. If you enter the Hecz quarters, there's a West Ham United license plate. I used to have West Ham United scarves hanging. I'm a fan, right? How big of a fan? That's the question.
It's arguable that you've been creating content for like such a long time, because back in Mexico, you did your own content, which was forms of graffiti. And on Instagram, we've seen you creating the book that you've been doing. And we noticed that you creating Xbox 360 plays nowadays and even back in the past. But how did that all come to fruition? Because it's something new that we don't really see people doing today.
It's an icebreaker to talk to girls. I was 13 years old. I didn't know. I don't speak English. I'm in the United States. I'm in Wheeling, Illinois, which is a northwest suburb of Chicago. I have a cousin here that speaks English and Spanish, but I don't speak English. I understand a little bit, but only because of cartoons. So 13 years old, you're coming into your own. How do you break the ice with the ladies? No one, no one me pick up lines or anything. So be goofball that I am, I had this sort of way of disarming just anybody, not just the girls, but once I got in comfortably and we were friends, that's when I slip in the little drawing of their name. And they're like, "Oh, cool, you took time." And I'm, yeah, it's because you mean so much. You know what I mean? But that was just some teenage boy things. But yeah, that's how I started. Eventually, somebody's like, "Oh, you do graffiti," and I was like, "Huh?" He's like, "Graffiti, you do graffiti," and I'm like, "Explain that to me. I'm from fucking Mexico, right?" And he's like, "Well, this is graffiti," and then it gives me the rundown, and I'm like, "Holy fuck!" I did a little bit of research at the library because there's no internet at the time, right? In 1993, as a seventh grader in junior high school, I'm sorry, as an eighth grader in junior high school, there's like I don't know, right? I had to go to the library to try to find a magazine. I had to go through to many different places to find them. And the second that I found a magazine, it's called 12 Ounce Profit. I got issue number 1, and I just fucking fell in love with it. And then the second that the internet came about, call it 4 years later or 3, something like that, it just opened up my mind to like what I was always meant to be, which is a graffiti writer. And I just fell in love with it. Did it for as long as I could. And to this day, I still do it, not illegally, which is the fun part, right? Painting trains at night is the one thing that a rich man cannot afford, right? It has repercussions. And now that I'm 40, like I understand, it's like, I don't know. It's just one thing that I wish I still did or able to do was that, but the right way.
What can we expect from the Optic Major? Because that goes live the same day this podcast goes live. It's all weekend, and you own Esports Arena now, right?
Yeah.
Great. How does it feel that you can basically do whatever you want? Because you mentioned a few ideas that you had to Astro, like Hecz tacos and things like that. What is the whole spectacle that we're going to have? Because it's not only a kind of event. Optic likes to put on a whole production. So what can we expect?
I can tell you this. Everybody that's watching from home is going to enjoy the show, obviously, but it's not going to have the same effect as being there live. Mm-hmm. As far as the tacos go, I'm literally going downtown tomorrow to try a bunch of tacos. It'll be in my vlog, but I'm gonna pick which one's gonna be the one that's at the stadium. Aside from that, look, we have a good team on our production side that understands stuff. We're not new to this, and I have been planning this for a long time. Am I gonna be able to do everything that I wanted to do for the Huntsman Major? Probably not, but that's because things change, different cities, different vibes. But it's gonna be sick, man. It's gonna be really, really good, super good. Yesterday, Paige showed me the badges that we're giving to the VIPs and influencers and all that. And they're like these bronze fucking metal things. And she's like, "Hey, can you tweet this out and tweet out the link for the tickets and say that you're going to give this away?" I'm like, "I'm not fucking giving this shit. That's just mine. I'm keeping that." She's like, No, we printed too. And I was like, "All right, cool. So somebody's going to get that." Lucky them. So yeah. I'm going to follow them. We're going to become best friends. No, I'm kidding. I don't know about that second part. I'm busy. I don't have time to hang out.
It's funny you mentioned that because, like you say, you've got your baseball bats on the wall. They're all hung up. And it's a shame that we can't really get them in the UK because it's shipping costs and everything like that.
Soon enough.
We mentioned the UK. May as well ask about it. Why not? Do you want Champs to be in London this year?
Yeah, I would. I don't want it to. I don't want it to be in the United States, and I don't mean that in an insult. I don't mean that in any I don't love. I don't love it here. I love it here. But we have a lot of friends in the UK, right? We have a lot of friends in France. We have a lot of friends in the Emirates. We have a lot of friends in Australia. Like we're a global brand, and we have been sharing our lives with people all over the world for as long as I can remember. So for us to sort of make it, and yeah, the majority of the teams here are all North American, right? I mean, obviously the Europeans are welcome, but like we're missing Spain, we're missing like France. Like I don't think that Paco is like the only anomaly that exists in France, right? Like there are other French players insane, and you can go back to the old days of the Gotagas, to the olden days of everybody that came from there. But I think that if France would have continued to develop that scene, like we have anomalies all over the world, right? Like I don't know. I'm excited for the future of esports because of that one thing. Right now, we're only exploring the anomalies from these very small group of pools, right, from different areas of the world. The second that this thing becomes big enough, and the second that this becomes so big that it's just as acceptable as traditional sports, then that's when we're going to start to see all the anomalies, right? To this day, we still haven't seen a female Call of Duty player that's competing at this level, and she exists. She is out there, right? And she will have a Optic contract ready for her to go if we expand to 5. Obviously, I love my boys now, but you know what I'm saying.
It's funny you mentioned that because Optic used to have its own girls team with Midnight, everybody else that was part of it. But we see Midnight expanding to Rocker. You see yourself and Diesel and Hutch and everybody, as well as May playing Old Men of Optic, Warzone. Hopefully, see you expanding to rank play. But you also had Optic Nation as a sister team, which ran alongside.
I mean, I don't think that's they're both. If it's Optic in it, it's one family. It's not a sister brand. If it's got Optic in it, it's part of Optic. You know what I mean?
That makes a lot more sense because, like you say, Optic is a family, like you've alluded to in the rest of the podcast, because it is, once you're in Optic, you get the support of the Green Wall, you get the support of everybody else around them. But we see Toronto Ultra and Singularity partnering up to get their own challengers teams. Do you think this will be something that Optic does?
Yeah, look, General is currently winning fucking all over the place in the challenger scene, right? So yeah, it's just a matter of timing more than anything, and to see like a plan of what challengers is. And right now, I don't think we have that.
I want to know, do you think that with Microsoft purchasing Activision and Esports Engine being involved in Call of Duty and Halo, that we'll possibly be able to see Call of Duty being back in its prime? Because there's a lot of competition now with Halo and Call of Duty, I guess.
Not really. I mean, they're two different games. Do they share some audience? Yeah, but I don't think it's an overlapping one that will cannibalize the other. I think that if there is a Halo tournament and also a Call of Duty tournament on at the same time, and Optic is on at the same time, those who like Halo also are gonna open up the Halo stream, and they're gonna have two streams out there. I don't know if you can hear the boys practicing in the background, so I apologize for that.
It's not an issue.
All right, good. Maybe it's just me. But I don't think. Look, one, we don't know if that deal's going to go through still, right? Like, every day you find out different things. Now, some shareholders are suing Activision, and obviously the government has the antitrust issues, and it's a $70 billion deal, right? So who fucking knows when that's done, if it gets done. The only thing that we can do is we can continue to just do the work and the passionate work that we have for the last decade, and continue to see where this thing goes. Like, for us to rely on developers and for us to rely on external forces that don't necessarily have anything to do with Call of Duty. More importantly for me, Optic. We'd be wasting our breath. But I tell you what, man. Look, Call of Duty, as small as it is right now, as small as it is, or as big as it was, like it's gonna there's no doubt in my mind that in the end, Call of Duty is at the top of at the top alongside with the League of Legends, at the top side alongside with Counter-Strike, etc. Counter-Strike's been around for how long, right? Like Call of Duty's been around for how long? So if you give it that same sort of timeline, I think that we have a resurgence. Off the top of your head. Name the 3 biggest organizations, the 3 biggest orgs, esports orgs across everything in the world. Name the first 3 that comes to your mind.
I'm not just saying these because you're here. I'd go Optic, FaZe. The third one's a bit of a toss-up for me. It's a bit difficult to think of the biggest, but it'll either be... No, I wouldn't say 100 Thieves. I'd go Cloud9.
Okay. 2 of the 3 that you mentioned are Call of Duty clans.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So anytime somebody talks about how big Call of Duty is, or they try to console esports, the biggest, most followed esports organizations in the world were nascent to PCs. We played with a fucking controller. Bro, that is a testament to what we bring to the table from a different eyes perspective, right? Like it's there and we are there, right? It's as simple as that. So I have big hopes that Call of Duty will continue to grow. I have big hopes that Valorant will continue to kill the way that it's killing it. Have high hopes that Counter-Strike will be around forever. I mean, it is that important. You know, Halo will continue to grow. Obviously, that's inevitable, especially with the esports team and backing that they have behind their 343, etc. It's all a matter of the community. Nobody has a bigger say into how big something is besides the people that play and watch that game. You can look at fucking critics, you can look at the fucking reporters, you can look at everybody that has a fucking opinion, but if they don't play that game, it's just an opinion. It is not a fact. You ask a Halo person that creates Halo content, that has Halo fans, where this thing goes, and you're going to see a very positive outlook as to where it could be, right? Don't ask the people that don't know shit, right? Everybody has an opinion. That's what Twitter does. The problem is that they feel as though they are experts when they're not.
I guess you could say they're online warriors or keyboard warriors, but people actually in the scene know what they're talking about and know how to handle things. But how does it feel? Because you have been in the scene for quite a while. You've made people's careers. You honestly have. And you've made it so people are actually able to grow. People are actually able to get the support of the Green Wall, whether that be as soon as they join, whether that be if they've been in the Green Wall for a long time, because there's people that we'd never even heard of before, and you managed to help them grow their brand, advising them to create content. How does it feel that you could go to an event, you hear a Let's Go Optic chant, you can go to an event and there'll be an extremely long meet and greet line because of their favorite personalities being there right in front of them?
Humbled, man. I mean, look, at the end of the day, we all set out to create content and hope that people would watch it. To see it evolve into what it is today, where there's so many people that have followed us for over decades, it's humbling, man. Like it does sit you down and say, hey, this is not reality. This is not what you lived for the majority of your life. So yeah, I mean, it's a humbling experience. The ability for us to recognize it, though, that's where we make it a point to repeat it to ourselves, right? Whether we're having dinner or not, we're being like, we're here because we are entertainers, we are competitors, and we're here to serve a bigger purpose. And we never ever veer away from that. When I drive to my office, when I drive to the Hecz quarters or my garage or wherever the next video shoot is, I see people going to work and I see myself in them because that was me at one point. And I'm glad that I'm here, and I would rather do this than do that, period. So for me to not acknowledge or not be thankful or not be so goddamn thankful and appreciative of the situation that I'm in, I don't, that would make me unhuman. That would not, that would make me a psychopath, I think. So it's humbling for sure.
I can completely understand why you would be humbled, because Optic is a brand that has started from nothing and is completely blown up. Like, you've got people that want to invest in Optic, but recently with the Optic and MV merger.
Let me ask you something before you ask me that question. How long have you been watching Optic for? How old are you?
I've probably Black Ops 2.
Black Ops 2, how old are you?
21.
21. Where's this podcast going?
I have absolutely no idea where this podcast is honestly going to go. I started it because of people like yourself having the Eavesdrop podcasts and things like that.
Okay. So do you have a YouTube channel?
I have a YouTube channel for this podcast, but not personally because I just don't.
Okay. In your experience in life, not just esports, and obviously, like, look, you asked me to be on your podcast. I came on. You didn't even have a fucking podcast. You just asked me to be on it, and I said yes. In what world does that happen?
Yeah.
If not in gaming, if not in the Optic world, right? Like, I made you wait a month because of COVID and shit, but I'm here, right? Like I said, I was going to be here, and I'm here. I think that's like the thesis of Optic, right? Like we aren't too good. Mm-hmm. We aren't too good to do something for someone, and that is something that we all feel like. Like Scump is like the poorest rich man I know. Like, this dude doesn't spend on anything, but it's like he's the most humble dude that's ever. You know what I mean? Like he's at the level that he is. Mm-hmm. He'll never not take a picture with someone. He'll never not take the time to do something. And that is a culture that we have created here, right? We're literally them. Whoever you're talking to inside of that camera on the other side of the screen, that's us at one point or another. So we always keep that in mind.
It's not surprising that people want to be a fan of Optic because it's that kind of family that you mentioned previously in the podcast, whether it be in the Hecz squads, whether it be an online family. Because if you're a part of Optic, you are a part of the Green Wall, you are part of a family and you're respected. And no matter what, who you are, where you are, how you live life, you're a part of the family. But how did it feel that as a team owner, you were actually able to send somebody that skin and have them design it? Because that's not something we've achieved recently with Call of Duty.
I mean, not only do I feel like we should, but I think we have a right to, and more importantly, like just give us the template. We'll give it to Aaron. We'll all sit together and say yes and no to certain things. What you saw there that Aaron created was not the original concept of it. Let me see if I can bring it up and give you a sneak peek. But it was like it was a bunch of iterations of this thing that little by little became what we wanted it to be. The original concept was too green. It was just something that man, we have so many. Here you go. How about this? I'll show you what some of the logo concepts were for the original Optic Dallas. Let me see. Hold on. I'm trying to. Why doesn't the camera focus? I don't know if you can see. Let me see. Let me try this. Too bright. Boom. There you go. So those were some of the original logo concepts that we have in my text thread with Aaron. But anyway, at the end of the day, look, no one knows the Optic brand better than us, and I think that if we can take that workload off of those creators, they won't put out shit skins, right? It's as simple as that. We didn't like. This is what annoys me the most about this situation. We're taking a workload off of you. We're freeing up your time to continue to build the cool fucking interactive camos that you can create on a daily basis and not give us a shit fucking camo for a league that's worth what it is. And it's not the artist, all right? The artist was told you have 1 hour to work on this thing for all teams. Just make it, I'm tongue-in-cheek here on the 1 hour, but I can guarantee you they told them not to waste any more time than they needed to in creating a skin, which is fucked up. Because if I want to spend the money that I would want to that I would have to spend to have Aaron create something, and if it takes 2 weeks, if it takes 1 week, we come up with a better product every single time. And you're not going to tell me that once I give you the imagery, it's not skinning a template, because it's a template. And I can tell because of the way the skins look in every single one of our teams' fucking skins. It is insulting how bad and how shit the skins were. Insulting, especially because we want to offload that from you. We want to do that work. You don't even have to pay anyone to do it. We'll pay somebody to do that. And that's what annoys me. That's what annoys me. That they didn't even give us a chance for us to create it. They just said, instead of giving you guys a chance to create it, we're just going to give you a piece of shit. We're just gonna give you a piece of shit, and guess what? You're gonna enjoy it. The problem comes when people, right? Like, I'm still gonna buy that skin, right? I'm still gonna, because of the outfit, even the outfit, right? Like, I don't even want to get into talks of that. Like, the people that are buying the skins today are not paying necessarily for the skin or how good the skin looks. They're paying to support a team that they like, and at the end of the day, whether it looks as shitty as it does or whether it looks as good as the Halo ones do, you're still doing your duty as a member of the Green Wall by buying a skin to support the team, right? To show them, right? To show Activision, it's like, look, we want this. We want this. Look, we're buying this ugly piece of shit, right? Let our money go to something that's worth it next year. Right, because these numbers matter to Activision, right? Like the skin numbers matter to Activision. So the people that buy it, whether good or bad looking, they're supporting a bigger picture here, and I don't think that a lot of people realize that. So I want to thank every single one that's bought it. Obviously the camo isn't necessarily what we would to do, obviously, but at the end of the day, you're paying for a bigger opportunity. So I appreciate that.
It's interesting you mentioned that because these packs are to help the teams be represented in the game. It helps the CDL be noticed. It helps the league grow, hopefully back into its quote unquote prime. And surely it makes more sense, and I'm sure you'll agree with me, that these teams packs should actually fund a champs event like later on in the year, because it allows a bigger prize pool, allows a bigger viewership, and it allows people to essentially grab the attention of the general public that maybe don't watch CDL.
Yeah, look, I've had this thought throughout the course of my career, right? And I've had thoughts, and you know, I back in the day more so than today, I thought about what would make Call of Duty cooler, and I've vomited all of these words and plans and ideas for the world to use. They just chose not to. The good thing is that, you know, hopefully one day they'll get around to it. Hopefully, but I just don't know. I'm obviously bullish. I love this thing. There's no world in which I don't see myself 15 years from now not going to a Call of Duty event to watch Optic play. There's no world in which that happens. And it all, you know, comes from passion. Whether I mean, I don't even know, man. I don't even know. No matter what happens, I know that if I focus enough time and effort into Optic, that we will be able to still be around for a very, very long time.
This actually fits right in. I'm going to ask, what do you see as the future of Optic? Because Optic is an ever-growing brand, and if I had to put a time frame on it, say 5 years' time, where do you see Optic? Will it be in the metaverse, or what's next for Optic? Because no one can predict it, really.
Yeah, dude, listen, 12 years, what are we in, 22? Yeah, 13 years ago, Twitter wasn't around.
Yeah.
Okay, that was 12 years ago. 5 years ago, Twitter wasn't as big as it is today or as important as it is today, right? Moving into Web3, right? Crypto, NFTs, like all this metaverse, like the new world. For you to ask me where we're going to be in 5 years, it's an impossibility. I mean, I know. Let me answer your question. Okay, do I know where it is? Yes, but I got to make sure that I take advantage of that idea first before I can share it. But I don't know, man. I think that history has already proven itself to be what it is, right? So you see a stadium that Jerry Jones owns where his Cowboys play. That's what I see. I see an Optic stadium, which we own, in which Optic plays. Like, these things are very not only feasible, but they're going to be part of everyday life, period. There's never been 10 years ago, the thought was there of stadiums being filled. 10 years ago. Okay, now we're starting to get to that place, right? In China, they're already obviously packing them with League of Legends and Overwatch. Like, Overwatch is massive in Asia, massive. So everything that we said was going to happen is going to happen. It's just common sense, right? I mean, look at the trajectory that video games has in comparison to traditional sports, and the opportunity is way, way, way bigger than that.
I'm going to sum it all up because you've gave me an hour of your time nearly, and I appreciate your time as well as what many others would do. But I have one more question from Reddit, just to sum it all up. I want to know, for those who are looking to get into the scene, it says, and are looking to get behind the scenes as well, whether it be an analyst, orgoner, or anybody like that, what is the biggest piece of advice you'd received or you'd give them as they are stepping stone to stone?
I mean, the number one thing is to start, right? That's the toughest thing, right? I go through it every single month when I start going to the gym and I just fall off, right? Consistency is always going to be the determining factor on whether or not you are able to grow your thing, right? As far as like the advice, focus on yourself, right? See, obviously be inspired by other people, for sure, right? And I've always said this throughout my career. A lot of teams became teams and created a strategy for their teams because they wanted to be like Optic, right? Face Clan, all the sniper fucking clans that existed, from Obey to Soar to whatever. They all set out to be Optic in a way, but they didn't set out to be Optic because it's impossible to be something that already exists, right? Like even with the knowledge that I have today, with the reach that I have today, I can't become Soar, right? Like, Soar already exists, right? So in that thought, you have to think about where you want to be as an end goal, or as a marking point. We'll call it that. right? Because the end goal, that shit will forever move until you die. It'll be a ever moving thing, obviously with technology and everything, all the external factors that go into it. But having a vision as to where you want to be and allowing yourself to be flexible when you get there is the number one priority, right? Have a goal, but know that that is not the goal or the end goal. Like, it's always going to be evolving. And starting, man, starting is the one thing that will always deter people from doing something. What kind of microphone are you using?
I'm currently using an Elgato Wave 3.
An Elgato Wave 3, right? You didn't wait until you got the Shure SM7 mic, right? Like, you just decided, I'm ready to go. What kind of webcam are you using?
A Razer Cairo Pro. I believe that's what it's called.
Okay. Boom. Like, you didn't wait until you had the A7S Mark II fucking $5,000 camera that most streamers do. You said, this content can be created with just this. A lot of people have this in their hands and have still not started to record themselves fixing a motorcycle. They haven't started to woodwork on something or create something for people to watch. It is mind-blowing to me how many different categories exist on YouTube and people still not trying to be something more than just a person that goes to clock in from 9 to 5.
Well, on that note there, I'm going to end the podcast. So thank you very much for joining me, Hecz. It's been an absolute breadth of knowledge to listen to, and I'm sure people who are listening to the podcast have absolutely enjoyed it. So thank you.
You're very welcome. Let me know when this goes live. Everybody make sure that you subscribe to this channel. This dude, without a podcast, without a history of podcasts, without even a YouTube channel, reached out, asked me to be on this podcast. So if somebody like that can get shit done, you put your bottom dollar on that.